Hi guys and welcome back to another DrAce video, and today we're going to be playing MotoGP 23 and we're here in Indianapolis. Of course it's a circuit that you don't see very more, but of course it used to be in MotoGP many years ago, and I decided today to change things up a bit. Instead of doing the historical series with the dry weather, I thought why not change it up to the wet weather, and I was inspired from playing a recent online race with the aces, Charlie, Sacred Me, I can't believe Gilzo, Max, everyone was in there as well, and we did a bit of Indianapolis in the wet whilst I was on board the Ducati. So I thought I did alright in that little bit of a race that we had together. There was nothing particularly anything to win or lose, but it was just a time to experience and practice the rain situations here online and here in MotoGP 23. So a bit of advice I'd like to give for when I'm using the wet weather. The first tip I picked up from Jack Hammer, he let me know about the anti-wheelie. There's no point in having anti-wheelie up high because you can't accelerate strong enough to have the anti-wheelie even engage. So you can turn that right down to the bottom to number 1. But for traction control, of course, it's very slippy. It's difficult. The rear spins up and you don't have that confidence to turn in. It's easier to just increase the traction control by 1. So whatever preset you were at, I'm playing currently at TCS 1, I'm going to bump that up to TCS 2. When I was playing with TCS 2, I had 3, and then, yeah, you get the point. So you just increase your TCS by 1. If you're already playing at the maximum 5, then I would recommend you don't, for a guess, but if you are, just then keep it as the same. But I'm not looking for any particular lap time here today. I'm just going to be looking on focusing on the feeling and the controller's feedback during a wet weather session. Whether it's rainy, whether it's wet, whether it's a sodden track that's beginning to dry, either or, everything will work. I much prefer a full wet situation rather than a drying track towards the end. Of course, it is fun and it's exciting for the viewers, and it's exciting for the racers as well during a race situation. But for practicing in a rainy track, I'm just going to leave it with complete rain, soft front, soft rear tyre, and just see what lap times we can produce. Now there's a couple of things to notice when you're doing wet weather sessions, and prime example for me is everything's got to be that little bit more smoother. MotoGP 23 requires finesse, it requires gentle, controlled braking. None of this full linear pull from 0% all the way up to 100. You got to take your time and got to be very, very gentle. So that's why today I'm going to try and give you some tips for the wet weather racing. So power setting 2 is my go-to when racing in the wet. Of course you can use power setting 3, but it's going to require that even more a bit of finesse and gentle movements to get the job done. So for me, I wouldn't recommend power setting 3. It just spins up the rear. It's better to stay consistent at a good pace rather than sporadically putting in a good lap with every other lap resulting in a crash. So for simple practice, getting used to the wet weather conditions, stay in power setting 2. If you're still not comfortable, go for power setting 1. End of the day, you want to be at least comfortable on the bike. Doesn't matter if you're 5 seconds slower than your closest rival, just be comfortable, because once you're comfortable, once you've got that feeling, you can then increase as you go on. So maybe you do 10 laps and you go, you know what, I've reached the limit. I'm going to improve I'm going to increase the power. Maybe I'm going to reduce the traction control. And then you can start looking at what to change. Now, of course, I'll guarantee this question will be asked, so I'll tell you now. I don't change any setups. Everything is completely the same as it is when you start the game. Default settings, default brakes, default gears. Everything is completely default, so there's nothing here that I have got secret that isn't something that you can do. Complete transparency on display, as always. But something to bear in mind, it's going to be a feeling. It's a feeling out. You gotta keep on practicing, you gotta try it. So for me, when I first started playing MotoGP 23 in the wet, I was very hesitant on the brakes, and I still am. You'll notice in a couple of these corners it's only a small bit of brake, and then some corners I'll get a bit more confident as it goes on. But when you're straight line braking in the wet, you can brake more or less as normal. Everything seems to be fine. You can use a bit of rear brake in there as well, but it's for the... Just gone a bit deep there, as apologies. I actually went too late as I was focusing on the brake. But for those moments, everything is the same, but the trail brake. Bear in mind, when you trail brake, you can go quite aggressively on the brakes in MotoGP as long as you do it in a controlled manner. If you go 100% brake, it's a crash, but you can manage it around 80 to 70, maybe 90% if you want to increase the brake a little bit in the middle of a corner, but you've got to do it controlled. If it's not controlled, the bike will just wash out. And a prime example here, so you're going to notice in the bottom right corner of your screen, there's a few points where I'm going to be braking relatively firm, even on the side of the tyre. And this is where the feeling comes in, because there's a limit somewhere that allows you to brake. So for example, on the left hand side now, on a big long left-hander, braking but only 50%. I'm going to go a little bit gentle on the brakes here because I think this is a very slippery corner, even in the dry, easy to mess up. Even Valentino Rossi went down there in 2009, so it is easy to go wrong. But as you can see in a lot of these corners, there's just a small amount of brake, which will gradually increase until it's a certain point where you can actually feel the bike beginning to slip. And this is another corner, I'm at that limit. It's feeling like it's going to slip. You'll see the bike just get a little bit out of shape, and that's when I start lifting off and say, okay, no more front brake. I think we've nailed it now. So this video was not actually intended to be a guide, but I just wanted to give some of my feedback and opinions on how I manage the wet weather conditions. I actually really enjoy riding in the wet here in MotoGP 23. Out of all of them, probably this is the game I enjoy riding in the rain more than any of the others. But the only downfall is that MotoGP 23's AI in the wet are far superior than the players. You're going to have to be an esports player to beat them in at 120% difficulty in the wet. They're just too good. In full wet conditions, depending on the circuit, then maybe. But if it's a mixed condition, or if it's a track like Silverstone where there's a lot of flowing corners, yeah, wet weather races can be absolutely diabolical against 120% difficulty AI. So now out of the left-hand side, we are going to get across the line and hopefully improve the lap time. Not necessarily looking to improve on every lap, but if we can stay within a certain scale, I'll be a lot more content by the end of today's video. Now, of course, if you are enjoying today's video, don't forget to leave me a like and a subscribe. It does help out the channel and it helps me grow. Also helps to keep you inundated with tons of MotoGP 23 content, so it's a win-win for both of us. Something I mentioned, in fact, no, I didn't mention it, but I actually thought about mentioning it when I was doing the start of this video, is that I got caught out. Every now and again, you'll get those huge rain spots, those globules, those big blotches, appear in the corner you're looking through. So as you're looking into the distance, you'll see a big wet blotch that just gets on the screen. It can really throw you off. So something else I try to do here as well is just to really focus on the path where I'm going. So I'm focusing through the corners and onto the outside of the apex, hence the reason why we don't go over the apex and into the corner, is that you look to where you're going. Example, if you're a racer, you know this, or if you're a fan of racing, you probably know that already. But in this, when sometimes you'll be looking in your corner and there'll be a big blotch, and it does throw you off, it can be very distracting. No doubt it'll happen in today's video, but it caught me out earlier on. It just reminded me that I must mention that to you guys, because it's for the same for us all. We all are going to be used to seeing that big blotch come up, and it will distract us. So just fight through it. Remember the lines, remember the racing line, remember where you're going, and you should be fine. I remember once I was so fixated on the wet blotch that I ended up going to where the blotch was on the screen rather than the corner I was trying to take. But across the line, 1:45.168, not a bad performance so far. So at this point we've done 5 laps and we've got what, an improvement of around 3/10 from where we started with a 1:45. Actually did a lap earlier on, which I think was a 1:46 something, but I left the ghost on and I had to pause the video and turn off the ghost again. And I think I mentioned this in a previous one where I hate how it ruins the flow of the video, so I actually just restarted the whole thing. Just Just start again. Start from scratch. It's ruined now. Move on. Little bit loose there on the brakes going into turn 6. That's me finding the feeling. Exactly what I was talking to you about earlier on. You'll see the bike in the corner, braking on an angle, starts to wobble. The rear starts moving, the front starts going as if we're on an 80s disco. You're getting the feeling, you're feeling the beat, and it starts to lose its control. Try and avoid that. When that happens, you're braking too firm. And I would try and reduce the brake at that point. Even if it means you're going to go wide, it will probably save you from a crash. So just be very careful. Something else I wanted to put in there as well is the fact that you can see the inclusion of how much acceleration is being put on in the bottom right corner of your screen there, and you can see just how gentle it requires the throttle in this game, and especially for these wet weather conditions. Everything you do in normal dry racing is exemplified in the race, in the wet, in the rain. Doesn't matter what session it is exponentially more gentle. So if you have a very gentle touch, the wet weather is probably going to suit you very well. I know Cheshire Charlie in our Discord server, the race coordinator and channel member, he's very fast in the wet conditions, and I think he has that gentle touch. And then there's certain people on the other side who just don't like the wet. They like that finesse, they like the feeling, they like the grip, and they just go really well in the dry, but comes to the wet weather, you know, and maybe it's not going to go so well. Whatever style you have, just remember to be very gentle. That's the best advice I can give anyone in these wet weather conditions. But we're into lap 7 now, and I will say 6 laps in, the feeling's coming. It is really beginning to compound now, and it's beginning to feel stronger. So a little bit deep there for turn 7, but it's okay because I'm getting that feeling, and I think I can use a bit more throttle. I think I'm being a little bit too gentle at the middle stage of today's video. I'm going to try and get a good 10-12 laps in today's video. I don't know how many yet until I've really decided, but I'm feeling quite confident with what we've got. Oh, very tight the apex there. Small adjustment just to keep the Gresini Ducati from touching the grass, because of course if we touch the grass in these conditions, we're not only going to invalidate the lap, we're going to go straight on our backside. We're not going to stand, a little bit wide. Again, if I continued on that angle and I assumed the rear tyre would just ever so slightly touch the grass, and once the Michelin tyre touches the grass, it's just over. So I made that decision to just take the invalidation rather than a crash. I don't really want to be crashing in today's video, not when I'm trying to practice a certain track and get into the feel of a wet weather situation. Now, we did do a wet weather race in Estoril for the Ace Academy Cup, and of course with that in mind we did the Ace Academy Cup, well, we should have done it at this point and me recording this video, and that was another cracking race in Mugello, so stay tuned for that one. I'll try and get that done for whatever tomorrow's date is, and then hopefully you can see that with ample time. But we did have a wet weather situation in Estoril, which I thoroughly enjoyed, but it was a difficult track to do in the wet. I find Indianapolis works really, really well in the wet. Not many, there is a good couple of change of directions, but you can tackle these corners in a controlled fashion. Estoril, I feel like you're kind of on the limit regardless on that circuit because of the nature of that track. There's braking that goes uphill, there's braking downhill, there's braking in very fast and heavy stop-starts locations, so I think it's a much easier track to learn on something like Indianapolis, which is more or less flat, compared to a track that's going to include lots of bumps and undulation. Learning to the wet in something like the Sachsenring, personally for me, wouldn't be ideal. I think a lot of good tracks as well, something like Jerez, amazing circuit, Argentina would probably be pretty good as well, just to really get the feeling of the bike and understanding how much acceleration you can use, how much brake you can use, when to use power setting 3, because I haven't changed power setting 3 in this video, and I probably won't for today, but on the straights you could really utilise all that power on the straights with the third power option, but at the right time. Coming out of the corner in a low gear, bumping it up straight away to power setting 3 before you even get on the throttle is going to result in a very unstable motorcycle under acceleration. So again, trying to stick with what we know, trying to stick with power setting 2, get that feeling, get that inspiration, get the momentum building, and then start looking at doing faster laps. Because right now, I'm not looking to go faster, I'm looking to go smoother. I'm looking to be cleaner. Each and every lap it feels more and more natural. The tyres, of course, in time trial stay at the optimal temperature. Well, they don't stay, but they are at the optimal temperature already. And of course, with no tyre wear, there's no sense of losing any feeling. So it's a constant feeling throughout the Grand Prix, or throughout the time trial, should I say. So, best place to learn. I do hope this has been insightful today, because I wasn't actually planning on making a guide, hence the reason I didn't use any controller overlay. I just wanted to give the feedback, very similar to what we did in Mugello with the time practice. You guys seem to very much enjoy that video where I talked about my process in learning and understanding a track and how to improve. So I thought I'd give it here today with Indianapolis. And something very interesting to note is that Indianapolis is my last circuit in the game that I have not done a video on. This is the last one. So for that reason, I've gone wide there, that's going to invalidate, is it? Oh, we were lucky. So for that reason, I can now finally decide on my favourite tracks within MotoGP 23. I aim to cover every single track and I'll list every single track in one big chunky video. So I'll probably do a lap each. I'll explain my favourite parts about the circuit and maybe the worst parts. There's not a track I don't like in MotoGP. There's probably a few I would say I would never vote for or I would possibly skip, but I can't say I dislike any of the circuits. So it should be a very interesting video and I certainly hope you'll be looking forward to it. Don't forget to let me know in the comment section down below what if you would like to see that video or not. And if there's any other guides, videos, suggestions, let me know in the comment section down below. I always read the comments. I always reply when I can. So I will definitely take a look at that. But for the final part of today's video as well, I don't want to forget the fact that I'm doing a favourite bike list as well. I don't know how I'm going to list the Ducatis because, of course, the GP22 for the VR46 and the Cristini Ducati here, the GP23 with the factory Desmos H's such as Lenovo Ducati and Prima Pramac. Doesn't really make sense to include them twice in the list. So I'll think about how I'm going to do it and then I'll share it with you guys and then we can talk about the best bikes in MotoGP 23. But of course, important thing to note, it is my opinion, not the globalization feeling. Not everyone's feeling is going to be the same as mine, so I'll bear that in mind for when I make the video and I hope you guys will enjoy that one. So we're just going to finish lap number 10 and I'm definitely not going to end the video there because I kind of want to end it on a high. I want to end it with a improvement. I know for a fact that we messed up this final sector in the previous lap, which was actually one of our best, which in fact it was the best, 1:44.7, so I want to improve upon that. This lap time is going to put me back into the 1:45s, but I would say that's a 0.7 of a second deviation. Every single lap has been within 0.7, one invalid lap so far. Yeah, pretty much good stuff for me. So lap number 11, good, great start. Up by 1/10 and a half, up by 0.2. This Cristini Ducati in the wet is feeling beautiful. Something else I'm going to have to look into is trying different bikes in the wet. You might find that certain bikes work well for you in the wet and then some that don't. Personally, I'm not a fan of the Yamaha in the wet, for example. I much prefer the Ducatis. I think they feel the best in the wet weather conditions. Gas/KTM feel alright, but the Repsol Honda and the Ducati was my favourite bikes to use in the wet conditions, and unfortunately this lap is also not going to be an improvement. So you know what, I don't see why we can't do another lap. I would like to end this video on a high, and I'm not looking for a 1:43. There's no benchmark, no goal, just end on another personal best and I'll be a happy man to conclude today's video. But as I say, I really hope you enjoyed this video here today. It's just something a little bit different, a little bit more casual, a bit more relaxed, just giving the feedback and thoughts from myself, because I do appreciate... Oh, I've gone wide. Yeah, we're definitely not ending the video here. We'll get another lap or two in if I need to. I'll make sure we end on a high. But I know there's a lot of players who struggle and, well, downright detest the wet weather in MotoGP 23. I'm not one of those players, so if I can inspire you today to at least give it another chance, to maybe have some inspiration to learn and improve, then I think I've done a decent job as a content creator. But across the line, yeah, a 148.001 is certainly not going to win any awards, and I've gone extremely wide here for turn 1, and I've invalidated again. Okay, we'll do another lap. This could go on for a while. I can't believe I've started to make so many mistakes now towards the end of today's video. I guess getting sidetracked ever so slightly. Shout out to Sergio23 as well, by the way. That's a helmet he made for me for a while ago, which I used with a Red Bull KTM once in a video, and then I didn't use it again. It's an incredible... Oh, man, I'm off the circuit again. It's another incredible Sergio23 design, but I couldn't find the right time to use it. And then when we moved over to MotoGP 23's second season career mode, Sergio went above and beyond again to make another excellent Red Bull KTM helmet. So that one just basically got left to one side. But I do love it, so thank you, Sergio. And it certainly found its place when I use the Gresini Ducati in any of today's videos or whatever I do with this bike. So it works well. Red Bull will probably come to Gresini eventually. So yeah, it looks really good. And the Dainese leathers with the Gresini Ducati look really good. I'd say they look better than the Alpine Stars in this one. I'm a bit picky about the Dainese leathers in this game because it seems every other bike, every other livery you get, all seems to have the red leg, and it's annoying because I don't use red very often on my helmets or my logos or any of my designs. I do on the second channel, but that's different. So I like having it with different colours. So I went for the white boots, the white gloves, and even the white number 47. It just looks so good. But I digress for now because we need to really focus now for this last lap, if it is a good personal best. So into turn 1, I'm going to touch the apex again. We didn't. Oh wow, we didn't. That's very lucky. Okay, I'll take that. A little bit deep into turn 2. Keep it in as tight as you can for the apex of 3. Gentle on the brakes to the left-hander for 4. Gotta be careful here. Don't look at the apex there. Don't look at the exit because you'll get caught on the curb. I actually did that earlier on. Now onto the left-hand side. Gap is close enough. Over here to the right and then get right on the brakes where it is that white line. Keep it in, keep it in, keep it in. And back across to the right. We must get this bit right because I can't say I've done this bit right in a while. Gentle acceleration. Bit of feathery touch there as well. You might have seen it with the throttle input, so you even heard it on the controller then. Just pressing it quite rapidly. Not too overly rapidly, but enough so the power gets on. The power delivery is solid and smooth. Oh, a little bit eager on the rear brake there. You can use the rear brake in the wet, but sparingly. 1/10 of a second is the gap now. Keep it coming, keep it in. And now onto the left-hand side. Oh, it's slippy. It's definitely slippy. I'm still undecided what gear I should use in that corner there. But as long as we don't run it deep here, which we should be good, playing it a little bit safe, we're up by 4/10. Yeah, this is going to be a good lap to end on. So guys and gals, this should be the one. Careful now, because there is a slight bump in that track there, which makes you feel a little bit awkward. But 3/10 of a second we will gain on this lap. Might as well use power setting 3 then to end on a high from today's video. So across the line, it's a 1:44.336. So thank you very much guys for watching today's video. I certainly hope you enjoyed. As you can see, we can still improve a lot with the Ducati here in Indianapolis in the rain. Couple of invalid laps there at the bottom, but not to worry. Lap times are still very consistent and very competitive. So guys, thanks for watching. I guess I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Ciao for now. Oh hi, didn't quite see you there. Good to see you're still here. If this video didn't quite set your appetite, then why not watch some more DrAce content by clicking the video shown on screen now. Furthermore, if you would like to follow me on social media, you can do so now with the links down in the description. Consider subscribing so you don't miss a single DrAce video.